Ah, blood. One of the most powerful elements in the Mortal Kombat mythos, used by some of the most powerful blood specialists for whom that time of the month is the entire month. Blood is often depicted as powerful but risky magic, sometimes dangerous, sometimes forbidden, and for good reason. Blood contains oxygen, aka air, water, aka water, and a boatload of nutrients, minerals, copper, zinc, magnesium, stuff that's contained in the earth, so that's 3 out of the 4 primary elements that make up this entire chart. The only thing better than 3 elements is 4 elements. So yes, blood is very powerful, and yes, this elemental system reflects this. Time for a deep dive into just how powerful blood users really are and what makes this compound element so special. Starting with your girl, Skarlet. Not that one. No. Are you serious with the Marvel stuff? MK is not the MCU, even though it's desperately trying to be.
For some reason.
Yes, that one. The one who's stuck in perpetual puberty, perpetually smitten with other people's blood.
I came to suck you dry.
Skarlet is an interesting character. She's like a vampire on steroids that appraises the strength of other fighters by the, let's call it, the smell of their blood. She's basically a genetic analysis machine. People who come from really strong bloodlines will have that reflected in their blood. And she wants the blood.
She wants it.
Skarlet's sole mission is to absorb the blood of powerful people, gaining a bit of their strength along with it. She's quite a femme fatale and a devouring mother archetype, because she seduces and kills victims in order to take something from them, and she pretty much worships blood itself and wants to consume it the way a devouring mother worships her children, but ultimately is toxic to them because she wants to keep them trapped with her forever, away from the outside world, ultimately stifling their growth and killing them with kindness. Blood in general is a pretty advanced element, and Skarlet is probably the purest user of it. She takes full advantage of this compound, able to create various blood weapons, constructs, balls, hentai tentacles. She can drain her opponent's blood with a touch, not even her touch, just the touch of the blood she shoots out, which is technically still her since she herself is a blood construct. And don't give me that MK11 crap about how she's an orphan that Shao Kahn trained. It's lame as fuck, and even if it were true, we're all blood constructs. It's worth noting that blood combines the properties of a bunch of other elements, rightly so, since it's a 3-element compound. Skarlet, for instance, creates blood balls that are functionally very similar to Reptile or Liu Kang's force balls. They have a similar shape, they can be sped up or slowed down, but blood can also create semi-autonomous constructs, so the shape manipulation goes way beyond what force can do. However, blood balls lack the explosiveness of force ball, as they don't pop enemies up for a combo, and that makes sense considering blood lacks the fire component that force possesses, but blood can also heal or give damage buffs, so it's much more multifunctional than most of the other elements. There's also a sacrificial component to blood. Many of Skarlet's moves involve her stabbing herself to create some of the more impressive effects. Kotal also does this, which we'll get to in a bit. So blood is portrayed as a precious resource for obvious cultural and biological reasons that's easily extinguished for powerful effects. A double-edged sword. Skarlet can also do blood ports, which are functionally similar to legit teleports, but are just her transforming into blood and quickly dripping away and reforming to the other side of the stage. And last but not least, as a top-tier blood user, Skarlet has access to all sorts of buffs, debuffs, utility-based moves, rituals as they're called. She can steal health, mitigate damage, deal damage over time by turning her blood toxic and shrouding herself in an aura of it. She can go full bloodbender and take control of her opponent's blood. She can give you the rumbly tummies, make you cry blood, bleed blood, vomit blood, basically a hangover without the alcohol. Blood is a very dangerous element, and Skarlet probably best showcases all the ways it can hurt you. Shao Kahn. The frustrating thing about Shao is that he never once uses blood on screen in any one game or adaptation ever, except perhaps in Conquest, where he occasionally manipulates his subjects' bodies, forcing them to stand, preventing them from leaving, which could be bloodbending, but it could just as well be telekinesis by way of soul manipulation, so we don't really know. Yet despite this, Shao clearly can use blood manipulation because A, he created Skarlet, or taught her bloodbending if you prefer the gay version, and B, Shao Kahn uses half the fucking elemental chart: force, soul, shadow, trash talk. He's a paranoid, power-hungry despot who's obsessed with learning as many skills, powers, and tactics as he can. I don't think he'd allow for such a canyon-sized gap in his arsenal. He'd buy all the online blood magic courses he could get his hands on. As for why we don't ever see him use blood in-game, there's a gameplay reason and a potential lore or character reason. The gameplay reason is he'd just be fucking broken, just like he's already using a boatload of elements, mostly compounds, so adding blood is just, it would be too much. But character-wise, given that blood is this high-risk, high-reward element that requires sacrificing some of your life force and whatnot, Shao Kahn's not gonna bother with that. He learned it because he wants to learn all things, especially skills that could be used against him, but he's not gonna bother to use it much, and more to the point, he's a master of soul manipulation, which is a step up from blood and the ultimate element, so it's strictly better if you're really good at it. Which he is. Nitara. The non-masked version of Skarlet sports several interesting abilities. First off, Deadly Alliance Nitara is... It's embarrassing. 2 specials, a spit, and Tanya's flip kick? Good gods. Best looking version, worst playable version. Moving on, MK12 Nitara is actually pretty cool. Beyond the standard I'ma spit my menstrual cycle in your eye attack, she can also, like Skarlet, burn off a portion of her blood to get a damage buff, and the more potent version will also attempt to replenish lost blood from the opponent hemokinetically. And then... I don't even know what that is. Basically, you use said sacrificed blood to generate probably the fanciest blood attack I've ever seen. Cool stuff. Now let's go through a few honorable mentions before getting to the big kahuna himself. Meat. Now, meat doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with blood. Just because he's a skinless bastard that reminds you of a malnourished sphinx cat doesn't mean he's a blood user or anything. And yet ask everyone, every single fan theory that has ever sprouted out of any fan's mind sees meat as either some kind of blood construct, or some flesh pits experiment conducted by Shang Tsung, or some ancient blood god. It's always blood, blood, blood. Talk about a bloodthirsty fanbase. I have my own theories as to what this character could be. One of them is that it could be some kind of proxy construct, golem or body created in secret by Skarlet to attempt to escape Shao Kahn's control, and the other theories you can check out in this video. Havik. Havik is a complicated pickle, or more like tomato, because he looks extremely blood-oriented with all the blood and guts he throws at you, and particularly with the blood link move he uses in MK12, which syncs back to all the ritualistic take control of your body type moves that Skarlet uses, but there's more to Mr. Chaos Lover 69 than meets the eye. I already made a dedicated video covering the twisted rabbit hole that is Havik. It's gross, you'll love it. Ferra. Ferra might actually use a bit of blood manipulation too, believe it or not. If you look at their pain in game move specifically, it's nothing more than Kotal's own knife stroking move, and functions the same way, kills a bit of life to enhance a bit of damage. These kinds of moves either burn blood as fuel to gain enhanced strength, or the sudden drop in blood within a fighter that has any kind of blood proficiency causes their body to kick into overdrive, surreptitiously enhancing strength, reflexes, blood generation, muscle swelling, and thus damage, cognition due to increased blood flow, oxygen flow, better erections. But enough of this, no more dilly-dallying here. Time to talk about the blood god himself. Kotal Kahn. By the way, it wasn't long ago that I included Kotal in the Every Light User video. How badass is he that I have to make 3 videos, because his totems are something else, on just his powers alone. Such an incredibly potent character concept paired with such incredibly impotent writing. Kotal is a walking tragedy. But anyway, Kotal Kahn is part of an entire race of humanoids that sport blood and light and earth abilities, so they're naturally dangerous individuals. And Kotal is to them what Khal Drogo is to the Dothraki, the biggest, most powerful specimen of them all. Genetics-wise, it makes a lot of sense that these people would evolve blood and light abilities. One damages you while the other heals. If we had to bet, we would say that the Oshtek evolved blood abilities as a desperate trump card against natural predators, to resolve intertribal conflicts, and as part of their rituals and culture. And then, to make up for that, evolution also gifted them with the ability to absorb and channel light radiation, most notably from the sun, and became as efficient as possible at using it to heal themselves to counter the damaging effects of the blood. All speculation, of course, but it's what a geneticist might say. This makes Kotal a very balanced fighter, and doubles as good visual storytelling to emphasize that he's a balanced ruler too, or at least he was supposed to be before NRS decided to shit all over him. Much like Skarlet and Torr, he can sacrifice his own blood to enhance his strength. But that's just the beginning. From here on out, it gets very weird, because the variation known as Blood God, where you'd think you'd see the most amount of blood abilities being used, actually gives you what looks like Earth. abilities. What the hell is going on here? The totems themselves are clearly made up of soil or clay or ceramics. Either way, it's stuff that comes from the earth itself, so they're technically an earth skill, but their effects are very much in tune with what the blood element is all about. Particularly the third one that translates damage taken by the opponent into life gained by Kotal, so it's very vampirical. So it's just earth? Is that a thing that Earth can do, and the glowy thing and all that?
There's something else going on.
Considering that the Oshtek are so advanced so as to have mastered 3 elements, it could also mean that throughout the countless years of evolution that they went through, they learned a way to make these elements work synergistically with one another. What the hell does that mean? Well, Earth looks like just dirt, but it's actually a more versatile element than people realize, as it pretty much contains every single resource, raw mineral, metal, crystal that we cultivate, that we use for our survival, to build stuff, to protect ourselves, and Tremor aptly shows the potential of raw earth through his variations, making use of crystals, gold, and other metals and whatnot. In fact, now that I think about it, the totems are actually named as such. Crystal totem, obsidian totem, you know, earth stuff. And a lot of the minerals found in the earth are stuff our bodies need, so if one found a way to process and transfer those things telekinetically, that would be a game changer. Earth is also a component part of the blood element, the other two being air and water, and light, a derivative of fire, fills in the blanks, giving Kotal access to all 4 primary elements that make up soul energy, the stuff that you can do pretty much whatever you want with. If this is all very confusing to you, watch the power system video, it fills in the knowledge gaps. Of course, Kotal isn't actually using soul, but gains access to much of its potential just through using its component parts. Since Earth is a part of blood, and concordantly, since a lot of the useful stuff in Earth is found in your bloodstream, the totems are a way to extract energy from the ground rather than from yours or your opponent's blood. Whereas blood is a very precious, very limited resource, the earth is abundant and ever-present. It is an inexhaustible source of strength and vitality, and Kotal Kahn learned how to draw from it. The defensive totem infuses this extra energy into Kotal himself as a protective extra skin, granting him damage reduction, while the offensive totem is the real show stealer, focusing the equivalent of 2 or 3 blood offerings worth of strength right into his fists. His muscles engorge, his bones harden, his blood boils, he gets fully vascularized, especially in the fun places, and he can delete your health bar in a matter of seconds. The final totem converts damage into health as mentioned earlier. Whatever bruises, skin, flesh, bone damage, cells, fluid, blood that would normally just dissipate or get splattered away, they instead get absorbed by this totem and converted into energy that heals Kotal's own tissues when it dissolves. Easy. Lastly, I'd like to point out a neat bit of symmetry. The red female ninja uses blood, while the red male ninja uses soul. 3 elements versus 4. Rare, powerful compound versus the only rarer, more powerful compound, which is a really cool way of saying
Women, back to our kitchen.
Seriously though, natural power differentials aside, this is a nice way to showcase the different elements, strengths, and characteristics for each of the ninja color equivalents. Female red is viscous, visceral, life-giving fluid that conjures up a variety of vampiric, blush-inducing, ripe-eluding feminine metaphors, while soul is blood plus an extra element, a step up like in height, that women appreciate, particularly when wearing heels. The female yellow ninja is devious fire used for zoning, while the male version is full-blown hellfire. Female blue is cold, unforgiving wind, while the male blue is literal ice. And male and female greens are both water-based compound elements, except the female one is water plus earth, aka shadow, and oscillates between forthright density and devious intangibility, while the male version is force-based and has the more explosive, caustic fire component mixed in. And all the other ninjas are male and different shades of muck, so that's where the comparison ends. Special shout out to Longthorn and Serhi Hrishin for supporting the channel, which you can do too if you want custom emoji thingies, badges, priority comment replies, and shoutouts. Also, if you feel like talking MK lore with me and other MK fanatics, there's a link to the secret Discord in the description. Cheers.